Hey everybody, welcome to Fresh Out the Podcast. I'm on the wrong screen. And here we are. Hey everybody, welcome to the Fresh Out the Podcast. I am Johannanon, no longer on the wrong screen.
It's me, Casualty CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the Podcast and Fresh Out the Box, and I am on the right screen.
And I am Drew Munhausen, the professional movie master. My brain just disappeared. The professional media and movie mastermind. That's it. The Funhouse, Drew Munhausen. And Jahan, what screen were you on if you were on the wrong screen?
I accidentally put it to the Fantasy Age screen because I like Fantasy Age. But now I'm on the podcast screen.
I see.
One time we went to NXT War Games, and there were two rings, but the camera kept cutting back and forth to the wrong ring at the wrong time. Like, all the guys would do a big spot, and the camera in the stadium would cut to the empty ring. So as long as you had your eyes on the ring, you could see the action. But we were all chanting, "That's the wrong ring," and then we would chant, "That's the right ring," and it reminds me of you being on the wrong screen and the right screen.
I was on the wrong screen, yeah.
That's the right screen. We're glad you're on the right screen now.
I was in charge of IT, so naturally I screwed it up.
Nice.
I've been to many live wrestling events, and I've been to many of them with Gary and his brother Thomas, and they're very entertaining to go to live wrestling events with because chants are a normal part of wrestling. It happens all the time, but Gary and Thomas go out of their way to start new ones or find things to chant about. And usually, I'd say 9 times out of 10, they make the people around them laugh and sometimes join in too. I've only maybe once or twice seen a disgruntled person turn around and give them a mean look. But
I would say that usually maybe like a quarter of the people join in. A dozen people or so will join in over the time we're there, which is good. We have fun.
I didn't get to sit with you guys at WrestleMania because me and Kayvon had our own seats, but I don't remember what I was chanting, but the guy turned around and looked at me angry because he had a kid with him, and I'm like, this is not for kids. I'm gonna swear a lot.
Yeah, I mean it's a little for kids, but also you get to swear.
You get to swear. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can't tell me not to swear at a wrestling event.
That's correct. Yeah, I'm not gonna beat up your kid or anything, right? I'll swear all I want. It's safe for your family.
It's like telling a guy at a football game to put his shirt back on. Like, just get out of here.
Yeah, that's true. Shouting obscenities comes with wrestling.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll see a young child who's like a big fan of the face of the match. Like, they're cheering for the person they're supposed to be cheering for. And like myself or Gary or Thomas or whoever will start rooting for the bad guy. And sometimes that makes the children around us very upset. Sometimes we cheer for the good guy with the kids and we're like high-fiving the kids. It's a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, it depends on the match. Because usually, like Drew said, they're cheering for the good guy, but we know about the wrestler and their history and stuff. So we're cheering for a whole different reason. But yeah, it is fun to cheer together or against each other. We went to an indie show in Brookshire, Texas, and I was cheering the champ, who was obviously supposed to be the bad guy. And he was like a huge Booker T guy. I mean, he was super built, giant guy. And he was against a guy who could do like moonsaults, but he was kind of chubby, a little out of shape. But it was a good match either way. But I was booing the face. Boo, you suck. You can't beat our champ. That's our champ. And so after the match, the wrestler ended up coming out and standing behind me, like with his arms crossed, like towering over me, glaring down at me, like, how dare you, chant against me. And then we started laughing and shook hands. And he was like, "Hey, man, I appreciate the ribbing out there. That's what makes this sport different. It's a lot of fun."
So that's cool. That's a cool interaction.
So I'll never stop. The lesson I learned that day is that even, the faces like being cheered against. They think it's good fun.
Speaking of never stopping, one thing that doesn't seem like it is close to stopping right now is the Writers Guild strike and also the SAG strike. Do you like that segue?
That was a great segue. I forgot this strike was even going on because I recently got rid of Hulu and I got Sling. So I've just been watching AEW like nonstop, and obviously you don't need writers or actors for wrestling. It's not good enough. So yeah, I forgot this was even happening. What's the pace with that?
From what I'm hearing, some of the whispers is that this this strike's probably not ending until potentially next year. Like this, it could go into January. It doesn't seem like we're close. They could surprise us. There could be something, but it just doesn't sound like anybody's on the same page right now, and it's a little bit of a mess. And so, one of the things though that's interesting, and Jahan and I were talking a little bit about this before the show, Gary. So to fill you in, because I don't know if you followed this story, um, Drew Barrymore last week announced, she has a daytime talk show, the Drew Barrymore show, and she had announced plans to return this fall, the fall season of TV, and her show was going to come back, and they weren't going to be using, the WGA. Like, there are other talk shows that are still on the air because they don't use WGA. Like, Kelly Ripa, it's not with Ryan Seacrest anymore. It's with her husband. Like I think it's Mark and Kelly. Their show is on. The View is still on. There's some other talk shows that are continuing because they don't use writers. But Drew Barrymore was announcing her show was going to come back, and it was met with a lot of backlash on the interwebs and everywhere that she was doing that. And I get it. There's a lot of people that work on her show that are not part of the Writers Guild, like folks on the production side who have been without a job since the middle of the summer for multiple months now. So I get it. She's wanting to try to create jobs for others, but just, there is like I guess like a feeling of solidarity with the Writers Guild in Hollywood right now. So her doing that was kind of considered to be, it was a bad
damned
look.
if you do, damned if you don't situation for her. That sucks both ways. I could really imagine, and not that I know what's going on behind the scenes, but like you said, I could imagine someone from the production department calling, crying like, yo, I need a job. I need to pay my bills. Yeah. And for a while you could sign some checks and give them some money, but it gets to a point where you got to get the show on the road again. But yeah, it sucks to also be like, hey, I'm the guy who's firing all my writers and starting my show back up. I mean, either way, it's a bad look. She's real screwed on that one.
Well, she's actually already, so that's the thing. She's already backtracked on it. So she had announced she was coming back, and now she is halted it. It is no longer coming back, and she released a statement over the weekend on social, apologizing and apologizing to the writers and to anybody that she may have offended. And the same thing actually happened with The Talk, the daytime show. I think they were planning to come back, and they've also decided to halt their return. And so it's very interesting because the Writers Guild has basically, not that this is something they've learned or it's not like an army they utilize, but like the social media discourse is on their side, so they can really leverage social media and online discourse to help their cause in a case of like this.
It's a great time for this strike because the entire country feels like they need to get paid more right now. So everyone's on the strikers' side because everybody is broke and everybody's living paycheck to paycheck. And, that's a generalization. It's not everybody, but more people than ever, it seems like. And so, yeah, it's almost one of those things that your timing is great because you've already got you got a mass of people pissed off thinking they're not getting paid enough. They're on your side. We're all on your side. You're not getting paid enough. No one's getting paid enough. And that's, I would love for Drew Barrymore. I don't know if she has as much money as I think she does, but she's a movie star, so she probably has enough money to pay her staff not to work. And I would like to think that there's some other workaround where you could start your show back up and continue to set aside writers' money, just like you had a writing staff. Just put it in a pool, and the second the thing gets lifted, hire your writers back and give them their back pay. I think there must be some kind of clever workaround here.
There are workarounds for sure. One, yeah, absolutely. She can pay out of pocket. She's rich. She can do it. A lot of the other talk show hosts, I think there's a podcast called Strike Force 5. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's a bunch of the late night hosts like Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert. 5 of them got together, and they're doing a podcast to help fund the strike fund. So they're helping, and also they're all paying their production crews out of pocket, and it's what you should do. What I mean? They're all rich. Money is just money. Pay your people, and so they're doing a really good job, putting a really good foot forward. The other things that you can do, like A24, they negotiated with the Writers Guild, and they agreed to pay what the demands currently are to people in order to be able to continue producing. Like separately. So like there are workarounds. You can do those things. It's just most people aren't, and a lot of the studios aren't. And I've heard that, or I read that the WB is set to lose a lot more money than the writers are asking for. And so, like, what's the point? What are you doing? Why are you grandstanding? And I don't know, man. Like, it almost starts boiling down to like class warfare. They're like, we're not giving you
Really
ingrates any
does.
money. You know,
To
like,
me, it feels like class warfare because it's a waiting game. It's how long can they be broke versus how long can we be broke, and that's class warfare at its finest.
yeah, man, it's best. It's like they're like, first they want money, and then they're gonna want to live in my neighborhood. And it's just like just pay people, man. Like, stop with all this crap. Cut it out. I mean, I know that like I can say that it's not gonna change the way the world is. This is how it is. But
As far as this specific dynamic goes, though, with Hollywood, like we are hitting that point where the studios are going to start to get a little bit more desperate, and they're going to start to have to meeting some of these demands or figuring something out. So hopefully we'll see something soon. Jahan, you just mentioned WB, and that actually kind of goes with one of the other things I was going to talk about here, which is over the weekend, Winning Time was canceled. Like literally minutes after the finale ended, they like officially announced it was canceled. And it's kind of funny because Gary and I, talked about the first season a lot on this show, and we were both big fans of it. When the second season started airing, I watched the premiere, and Gary, I actually, Gary, appreciate your take. You said, I really, really liked the first season. I don't need more than that, so I'm good. I don't think I'm going to catch up with this season.
That. I've seen it already, and I didn't really want to watch a sequel.
And it's interesting because the second season, the version of the last episode of the season that critics got in advance, the screeners, ended a certain way. There was an additional scene added to the end of the finale when it aired. And basically, the funny thing about this show now ending abruptly is the season essentially ended with the Lakers losing to the Celtics in the 1984 NBA Finals. So it's like, it ends on a down note for the Lakers, alluding to the comeback in the future. After that they lose, there was another scene with John C. Reilly and as his character and Jeannie Buss, the daughter, and they're talking about, I don't know what they say, but they make a few comments about like it basically not being the end of the world, and then there's title cards that come up like about the future of the franchise and what people did like at the end of a movie. Like they clearly knew this was the end. And there's a lot of people that are, like again with the social media discord and the strikes, they're like, it's because of the strikes and the writers and blah blah blah. And I don't think that's the case. I think, Jahan, you already said Warner Brothers is losing a lot of money, and they already have a lot of debt because that's part of what happened with this acquisition when they went to Discovery. And David Zaslav's it's been all over the news, all the cuts he's been doing, like with the Batgirl cancellation and selling their shows to other streamers, to make money. He's doing everything he can to make a buck. And at the end of the day, it seems like it comes down to Winning Time was probably a pretty expensive show to produce because there's a lot of things in LA shot on location, whatever. And it probably wasn't getting the viewership to justify it, because I feel like there was a lot of buzz around that first season. I think a lot of people did exactly what you said, Gary. Like, I kind of think was the general feeling, is like, I don't need more of this. Or it kind of just became like a so bad it's good show that people were watching, where like it had some decent performers, but it was schlocky material. And I don't know, I feel like it's been kind of all over the place. But at the end of the day, they wouldn't cancel it if it was either A, critically really well received, or B, somehow bringing in money. And clearly this was looked at something that was not a gain for them.
I never did watch a single episode of season 2, and we said it. I'll say it a million times. It should have been one. The first season should have been the whole 10 years or whatever of the Lakers run. It shouldn't have been one season per season. That was doomed from the get-go. It was never a good idea, and the cast is probably a huge part of the cost of that show. Plus, like you said, stuff shot on location. Plus, it's a period piece, so they're bringing in all the old cars and old costumes, and yeah, that show is cool, but I can certainly see it not being worth the money. It's not like it's selling T-shirts and action figures or anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, and you're right. Like they're starting to feel the pain and it's starting to show, and we know it. You know, I don't think that they can hold out as long as they're pretending they can. And also with news like the video game industry is wanting to join the strike. You know, like it's only gaining popularity, whereas the studios are getting all this hatred, and you know the things they're doing are messed up. Like, did you hear about them getting rid of all the trees in front of one of their locations so that people couldn't strike in the shade?
No,
They
is that a real thing?
That's a real thing that happened. I don't remember who it was. It was WB or so. I don't remember which studio, but they removed the trees, and they were like, "No, that's not why we're doing it. We were getting rid of them anyways." And like they got rid of like crossing blocks and like safety barriers and stuff that were meant to keep pedestrians safe walking on the streets. To you know, they're attacking these strikers. They're doing these gross things. It's like, stop it. Just stop doing this. And
That's
be
how you
human
fight
beings.
with money right there, man.
Yeah.
That's how you fight with money.
It's gross, man.
Enough
It's so
money
gross.
to take away the shade. That's hilarious.
And you know what? It's funny because it did nothing to deter people. Because you know they underestimate the working class's determination, and that's another thing that's really hard about the strike is like people's deliberate mischaracterization that like, oh, these actors are filthy rich. You know, why are they striking for more? That's not what they're doing. It's the people that don't get paid a lot. It's the extras, it's the writers, the people that make wages very similar to what we make, and at the same time live in one of the most expensive places on the face of the planet to live. You know what I mean? Like these people aren't making living wages. And a lot of news media likes to say, "Oh, these rich actors are just spoiled," and it's like that's not what's happening. So,
Not to
If
mention
the-
you're that you fall into all those categories you described, Jahan, and you're on a show that's on a streamer, where that streamer doesn't release to you how many people have watched your show, but yet they can tout your show as a hit, but you don't get paid anymore. You don't see any more benefit from that show being a hit, and you don't even really know what kind of numbers it's getting because they're not transparent about it. So it's like there's all that added on top of it too.
Yeah, could you imagine trying to go to another studio to pitch a project? You're like, I made this for Netflix. Okay, how successful was it? They won't tell me.
Social media really seemed to like it. Like,
Yeah, I
that's
think people like it. If you Google it, it has a bunch of thumbs ups. But like, other than that, I have no proof for you.
It was
that
in
would suck
the
as a
it was
project
in the
creator.
top 10 bar for a week next to the 3 Despicable Me movies that
I
have
took
been
a
out.
picture of it with my phone on my screen because there's no other way to prove what I'm saying to you.
I mean, yeah, the best example is Squid Games. The writer of Squid Games made the most popular show in the world, and hardly saw any money for it. The reason why he did finally get some money was because he was then in a much better position to negotiate for a season 2. And so, you know, it worked out for him in the end, I guess. But like all that merchandising, the most
want
popular
royalties.
show in the world, and he didn't see that money. You know what I mean? And that's what they're fighting for.
Yeah, I think it's fair to ask for some royalties. It seems like they've been screwed with some upfront short-term contracts, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And in a like creator era, when everybody was flocking to YouTube to create anything, yeah, I'm sure you would sign a Netflix contract in a heartbeat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's either that or you put your stuff up on YouTube for free. So, yeah, I would probably sign a Netflix contract that totally screwed me out of the rights of my stuff just so I could have it on Netflix. I get those contracts
I
being
get it.
crappy.
Yeah, I get it.
But about video game people joining the strike, you know, I wouldn't mind because Baldur's Gate 3 is already out and Starfield's already out. So if
I got my games, dude. Yeah. Now's the time.
Strike, now's the time.
If they done it last year, I would have been pissed because last year sucked.
Correcto. Yeah, leave us with trash games and then strike. We're like, boo, get back to work. Yeah, now take your time off, man.
Take your
Go
time. We're
ahead.
good. We're good.
Well, actually, that's a good segue too. Speaking of video games, this is taking a step away from the strikes and the discourse there. I wanted to talk because this is like some pretty fresh news, fresh out the podcast news. That is,
Oh boy.
about these Xbox leaks. Gary, have you been following this at all?
No, is your Xbox leaking?
No. So luckily it's not leaking coolant or any fluids.
Okay, good, because there shouldn't be anything wet coming out of your Xbox. If there's a leak, you really want to get that taken care of or get that looked at.
The hows and whys of this happening are unclear, and there seems to be a little bit of finger pointing going on. But essentially, a bunch of unredacted Xbox Microsoft documents have been revealed with like some pretty sensitive information about Microsoft's gaming division and its roadmap for the upcoming years and so on. And it's unclear how this has happened. It's all in relation to the FTC trial and everything that they've been doing regarding the Activision Blizzard acquisition. And some of the things that have come out of these leaks are pretty interesting. Some of it's less so interesting. Some of it's kind of a given. I'm going to go through, actually, thanks to the good folks at IGN for kind of compiling a lot of these things into one article. I was going to go through some of these points. The first one, The Elder Scrolls 6 is an Xbox console exclusive. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. We just got Starfield as an exclusive. Elder Scrolls 6 isn't going to come out for a long time. Of course, it's going to be an exclusive. Mm-hmm. So he's Phil Spencer has said some things publicly of like, it's still up in the air, whatever. These documents seem to clarify that, it's going to be exclusive.
They had said some really strange things about that in the past. That what did they say? That Starfield, the one of the feels of Starfield is that it's going to be an Xbox exclusive, and that's what sets it apart. And I was like, that's a weird way to phrase that. Maybe that means they'll still make Fallout or Elder Scrolls, but it sounds like Elder Scrolls is coming off the table.
Yeah. Okay, so there's that. Let's see. I'm going through some of these notes.
Wonder if they'll still share Fallout in the future.
Activision was briefed on a Switch successor late last year, which it's kind of public knowledge now that there's likely going to be a Switch successor next year in 2024. So maybe Microsoft has some internal knowledge about that from the conversations that happened with Activision and Nintendo. Another not surprising thing, Microsoft is planning to release updated Xbox Series X and S models next year. It's going to be about 4 years after those consoles launched. That's probably a similar time frame to when they did when the Xbox One got the Xbox One X update, probably, or was it Xbox One X?
It's all become nonsense at this point.
It's definitely nonsense. But yeah, we'll probably see like those kind of half step up consoles coming next year. That I'll probably spend too much money on buying to upgrade my console when I don't even really need to.
Just start naming them like planets, like the Xbox 4-AB. Since it's a Series X, this would be the Series XA, and until they make the Series SA2.
I thought you meant like after like Greek gods.
Oh no! Whenever you get,
I was like, yeah, that's dope.
Now, when you get to the further out systems, it's just like the name of the sun, and then everything is named 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. Gotcha. After that,
I was hoping for like the Xbox Hades or something. That'd be cool.
Oh, that'd be sick. No, that would actually be cool. No, I don't.
Babies.
I don't expect them to do anything cool at this point with the naming. That should have started a long time ago.
Let's see. This says the new Xbox Series X is codenamed Brooklyn. It's more compact than the original model.
Yeah, like the series Brooklyn. Yeah, that's mine right there. That's my Xbox.
Like the Series S, it lacks a disk drive. It'll have 2 terabytes of storage, 16 gigs of RAM, come in 100% recyclable packaging. The updated Series S is codenamed Elwood and will include 10 gigs of RAM.
Hey, that's one of the Blues Brothers.
And the pricing would remain the same as its predecessors. Let's see.
Or the skinny one.
What was that? What'd you say?
That would be the skinny one. That would be Dan Aykroyd is Elwood.
Oh. Okay, so there's that. Let's see. Microsoft's planning to have remastered versions of Fallout 3 and Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Nothing about that sounds surprising.
I just saw people on the subreddit like 2 days ago asking, like, why do we have so many remastered Skyrims and not a freaking Oblivion yet? I wonder if they'll, I don't love remasters. I would love if they would update the system a little bit on their way in. I'm sure they won't, but we'll see.
See, I've always wanted to play the mod in progress. What is this? Skywind, the Morrowind game made in the Skyrim system by fans. Seems pretty
Oh
cool.
yes, I know of what you
But
speak.
I mean, both those remasters actually do sound appealing to me because like I didn't get to play Oblivion as much as I wanted to, and I played Fallout 3 way too much and would like to go back. So, but I like
A
remasters sometimes.
Xbox is planning to release a next gen Xbox console in 2028, which lines up. The Xbox One launched in 2013 and the Series X launched in 2020. So that's pretty similar timetable.
Yeah.
It doesn't really say much there. It's just it's considered to be a next generation hybrid game platform. The document mentions a thin OS for a sub $99 consumer handheld devices, implying Microsoft may release a handheld device dedicated to cloud gaming.
Yeah, I think we talked about that a while back. We've seen this on the horizon. It would be foolish not to think that they wouldn't cash in on what Nintendo's doing. And with the cloud gaming, I really don't use it that much, but Lee, our friend Lee, just the other day was playing Starfield off cloud gaming, so he didn't download
Oh,
anything. And
interesting.
yeah, he played a couple hours just to see whether or not it was worth downloading. And I was like, "Whoa, we live in that world. I totally forgot about that."
I've done it a couple times and it's pretty it's not bad. I didn't really notice a difference. It just like the load times might have been a little longer, but it really wasn't that bad. For a game you didn't have to download at all, it's pretty cool.
Let's see. Phil Spencer really wants Microsoft to buy Nintendo, which is not surprising to me.
That
I
will
feel like
not
they've
go
had a
through.
good relation. I don't think I could not see it happening either. But it
The
says
way that they didn't want this Activision Blizzard thing, that's just a software company. There's no way they would let them buy Nintendo. It would never get approved in any
I don't think
world.
Nintendo would let America buy Nintendo. You know what I
It
mean?
would, the world, no one would approve it. It would literally not go through. It's like, no, no.
I couldn't see it happening either. I agree. It's just it
It's-
would be in a lot of ways it could be cool, you know, but I could pass on that. That is straight up monopoly at that point. It's checkmate.
so, some of the other studios they considered buying that were part of this. It says Sega, Square Enix, Zynga. But then it says the email from August 2020 revealed Spencer was enthusiastic about acquiring the studio behind Mario and Zelda. Spencer noted in the email that the acquisition would be a career moment if it happened. And it also revealed he was interested in acquiring Valve and Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, which would give like
Oh
Rocksteady
yes,
another realm.
please. I would love if Xbox got a hold of Warner Brothers. Then we get all the DC games too.
and Valve, like both of those would be good in my opinion.
There were rumors at one point that WB, I think, was shopping its games division for people to buy, and like I don't know if people weren't offering enough for them or what, but they're in kind of a weird spot because Gotham Knights was not very well received by fans. It's actually was just
'Cause
announced
it
as coming to Game
sucked.
Pass. It's coming to Game Pass here soon, in the next couple of weeks. And then like everything with that Suicide Squad game, it's like it was supposed to come out already, and it went back into development because everything looked so bad, and the whole live service gaming, which ironically, the Avengers game that we've talked about on here before as having played, it's being delisted from the store entirely, and I think it just went on sale for like $3.99 for
It
people
sure
to
did.
buy at a last ditch effort before it was removed from the store.
And the servers aren't even like they're not still live, are they? Like you can't play online with people. You can only play by yourself now, anyways. Yeah,
Right.
man, that's a shame that they're trying to get money for that on the way out. They should feel bad.
At least it's just literally nearly pocket change at this point, but still, yeah, it's like it's just I mean, I'd pay $4. Playing the single player campaign of that game is worth $4. I think. Like I enjoyed the campaign. I enjoyed the time.
Then the
I didn't
game
play
should
that
have
much
never
online.
been $60. If that's the case, it should have never
Sure.
been 60.
Sure. That
Probably.
I won't disagree with that.
You're like, yeah, that's a $20 game. That's fine. I was laughing because I was thinking if Microsoft had the misfortune of owning WB Games, they would have pushed out that Suicide Squad game the same way they pushed out Redfall, and it would have been a comedic trash fire dumpster disaster. So maybe I don't want them to get any more studios too quickly.
These next two things are kind of or like the main reason I even wanted to talk about this, because I think they're kind of the most interesting. In one of the documents, Phil Spencer's honest opinion of the PS5 reveal was there, which basically he was like complimentary of certain aspects of it, but at the end of the day, it's clear that he thought or knew that Xbox had a better console than the PS5, that what they had developed was a stronger, better console in his mind. It says he thought so on the software front as well, and clearly that has not been the case. But then here it says an email chain shows Microsoft scrambling to fill a huge gap hole in its 2022 lineup. So they knew that their exclusives and what they had, or at least their big Game Pass releases, were a little bit scarce for this year, other than Starfield. And this is the part that I like. Let me find the whole article, because the article itself is interesting. They had some choice words for Baldur's Gate 3 where they clearly misread how big of a deal that game would be. So here it is. When they were looking to fill a huge hole in their 2022 games lineup, there's an email chain included a list of potential third-party games to add to the subscription service, all of which were slated to be released through 2023. Again, this is credit to IGN for this article.
Dude. Oh my god.
One of those was Baldur's Gate 3, which under the notes column for Baldur's Gate 3 was dubbed a, quote, second run Stadia PC RPG. The list also rated Baldur's Gate 3's wow factor as hub, and it's unclear what that means. But other games on the list that included that was like a Monkey Island game. They also estimated it would cost them $5 million to secure Baldur's Gate 3 as a day-and-date Game Pass release.
That would have been so worth it. Idiots.
So it's just absolutely clear that they had no idea how big of a deal Baldur's Gate 3 was going to be.
See, they should hire us, man, because we like, I would have called that one. Baldur's Gate 2 has stayed at the top of my favorite games of all time list for a reason. And the sequel to that, of course, it's going to be awesome.
It's easily one of the two biggest RPGs of all time, the other one being Skyrim, Elder Scrolls series, but yeah, that's it. You know, they're both going to be massive hits. So I guess he just got too big in his own britches, thinking that Bethesda was the biggest dog in the show, and it's not.
The director of publishing for Baldur's Gate 3 for the studio, Larian Studios, has commented on this, and basically he wasn't even like down on Microsoft. He basically said a lot of people underestimate. Like, that wasn't just them. That was kind of the general sentiment, was that everybody was dismissive of them or underestimating.
Studios underestimated it because the players had capped out already on Steam. They didn't think that so many more people were going to buy the full release when it came out and then continue to buy it. So it blew them away, even after it had blown them away. It blew them away a second time.
Yep. So even they were surprised at how successful it was.
Yeah.
The other things are just Red Dead Redemption 2 might get a next gen update. Okay. The FTC blames Microsoft for these leaks. That's where I was talking about the finger pointing. But yeah, so those were some of the things. It's clearly the type of stuff that Microsoft did not want necessarily going to the public, but here we are, with a little bit of insight. That whole trial was interesting to follow because of the behind the scenes look that we were getting, especially between Microsoft and Sony. But Phil Spencer did tweet today. He said, "We've seen the conversation around the old emails and documents. It's hard to see our team's work shared in this way because so much has changed and there's so much to be excited about right now and in the future. We will share the real plans when we are ready." So that was Phil Spencer's addressing all of these leaks that just occurred. Yeah, kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for some of that. 2028, I guess I'll start saving my pennies for a new Xbox.
On Engadget.com, I don't know if it's also talking about the leaks, and so I don't know how reliable of a source, but it says other ideas that Microsoft talked about revolved around a mobile controller, whereby the controller becomes the hero. and that Microsoft next generation gaming will be powered by AI and ML. I don't know what ML is though.
I do not either. There are some other things too about like direct to cloud controllers or things like they're all in on the cloud stuff, which I'm old and
Oh,
have my questions about it, but I'm sure it will work.
I feel dumb now because I looked it up, but ML is machine learning. So,
Okay,
no.
so very much like we could have predicted this coming after the huge AI wave that hit our country. Video games would be going to AI, it seems like, and Microsoft is ready to go that way towards machine learning and AI.
Spotify now has a beta of an AI DJ that looks at all of your listens of all time and picks different vibes based on that. And you can swap the vibe, and he talks to you, and it's very interesting. So yeah, AI is still very much a thing, and it's
Yeah,
not going anywhere.
supposedly it will replace us Googling things. You know what I mean? You won't use your thumb to type a thing on Google anymore. You won't use voice control to type it out while you're driving. You'll just have your AI do all that for you. You just ask your AI, and it will do the Googling. You know what I mean? So, yeah, games will go that way. Movies will probably go that way. It's going to be weird to me that we are going to play and experience completely different things from each other. Like right now, we're playing sort of different games in Starfield, and that's what we liked. But eventually, we're all going to play the same content. We're going to play the same missions and do the same things. I could see in an AI-driven game where you don't see the same things or do the same things, and there is whether that's interesting or not, we'll see.
We'll definitely see, and I'm excited for it. So
It's not like I'm not going to play it. I'm just curious to see what it does for the gaming industry. I feel like probably a lot of software developers will jump on it at once, and some of them will just be really bad, terrible clones of each other that you're playing for sort of no purpose. But a few people were going to strike gold.
yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, that's the main things I had for our news to unpack. Is there anything else before we jump into our fresh picks of the
So
week?
I've got something that's not necessarily a fresh pick. I just wanted to give you the update on how long I've been playing Starfield. I checked my hours before this earlier today. 4 days and 20 hours. That is 420 for anybody counting at home. I was pretty stoked about that. 116 hours altogether. I'm on my second playthrough. I've done a couple of the different side quest missions already. And I just every day spend like another 150,000 on ships. So keep upgrading them ships, baby.
I'm probably about half that. I'm probably like around 50 hours into the game and still enjoying it. So I've that's still kind of my primary game that I've been playing
I
right
probably put
now.
about 10. But I'm back. Like you guys have been making fun of me. I am back on the Baldur's Gate wagon. Still haven't made it to Baldur's Gate, which is really funny to me. But I'm about to get there. So
Yeah,
that
it's
game's
not
Is
even
there
nice.
is there an hour count for you in Baldur's Gate 3? Are you able to see how many hours you've played
Man,
there?
here, let me push a button here real quick. Hours. Oh, that's more than I thought. 66.8.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, not
It's
too
it's I
bad.
mean it's a lot, but it's also not like embarrassing.
No,
Yeah,
it's
no, that
comfortable.
game is my happy place right now. Speaking of video games, though, real quick, the last thing that I wanted to talk about, you guys heard about Unity and what they're doing?
Um,
No.
You haven't heard
yeah.
about this? Okay, so Unity, the software for game development, well-known company, lots of people use Unity. They announced a really messed up rule that they're going to start implementing. So they're going to start charging, or they're planning to start charging every time a game is downloaded that uses their system. So if you made your game with Unity, they are going to charge you every time someone downloads your game, not buys it, downloads it, and they're implementing this retroactively. And a lot of the bigger games would be fine, but it would destroy the indie industry. It would destroy it. And there has been fire and brimstone coming down from the community. People are furious. It's like such a ridiculous move, and they kind of pulled back a little bit because they like it went so far that they had to shut down their studio because of a credible death threat. So like, um, it got pretty crazy, and so yeah, you guys didn't hear about that, but that's something going on in the video game industry.
Yeah, now that
Everyone
you
is trying
mentioned
to
that.
screw the people working for them. That's the moral of the story.
Now that you mentioned that, I did see a headline about that. Cult of the Lamb said that if this doesn't get resolved, they're pulling their game on January 1st. They said you can eat our ass because we're not paying that fee.
Yes.
So some of the more established indie games, that's going to be their response is to just pull their games off all these platforms, which that sucks. That's money out of your pocket, man. And yeah, from what I understand, it's Unity. They have like two different tiers. They have like the Unity Pro tier that you pay for, and then the Unity Free tier, which is free. And that's the one that they're doing this to.
Yeah,
So if
they're
you
it's
spend,
something that indie devs
so
desperately rely on.
correct, you're just attacking indie devs because
You're
the big
literally
companies are
attacking the
using
poorest users.
big companies are using the paid version of the software and the programming. Only people who are indie are using the cheap software. They're the ones who are getting stuck with the sticker at the end of the day. Yeah, it super sucks. I know they pulled back on it a little bit. I just don't know what that means.
They
I don't
pulled
know what
back,
pulled back
but a
a little
lot of
bit means.
people are waiting and seeing because they broke trust big time, and people are upset. So yeah, that was Unity news. I just wanted to tickle your tendons with that tasty tidbit.
Drew, I see you got a video game on your list. Are you doing a little Pinocchio this morning?
I can talk about it here now as my first fresh pick since we've just been on the topic of video games as it is. Let me be clear. I'm still all in on Starfield. That's still my kind of go-to, but Lies of P is the new big Game Pass release. This game is multi-console, but it's just as an Xbox user, it's fortunate that this came to Game Pass day one. Lies of P is a Souls-like game, which those are becoming more and more common as people really love that genre. I know that you, Jahan, are a fan of Elden Ring and some of these games. I'm not a
My
big
brother's obsessed.
I'm not the biggest Souls guy. I just typically don't have the patience for it. And Lies of P has actually been getting some good reviews before it came out. I wanted to try it just because I thought the setting and the Pinocchio setting was interesting. So for those who don't know, it's like this is a how do you even describe the Souls genre for people that don't know, Jahan? It's like just a very challenging, action series where
It's an action RPG, very Devil May Cry like, in where when you die, the game doesn't end. You have to go reclaim your stuff or risk losing it all. That's typically what marks a Souls game is that death is common and a very relevant game mechanic.
The map is sort of open but punishing for being open.
Yeah.
if you die, all enemies respawn. You can
Yes.
get your gear back, but you have to get back to where you died. But typically, as you progress, you can open gates or pathways that help create shortcuts so that you can get places faster if you do die and respawn. So they're known for being very punishing, but also very
Brutal.
skill based. The hashtag get good is typically associated with the Souls like games, because that's what you got to do. If you're struggling,
roll,
just get
man.
good.
Just
Get
roll.
good.
All you have to do is roll. That's the real secret. Just roll all the time. That's the game where you dodge. You just dodge and dodge and dodge. That's what a Souls like is.
So that being said, when they announced Lies of P that it was a Pinocchio themed Souls-like game, to me that falls almost in a similar category as they're making a Gollum game that's stealth focused. Um, that Gollum
Yeah,
game
that
has
is
been one
very
of the
much who asked for this.
right.
Lies of P on paper is definitely who asked for this.
The difference is that Golem game ended up being like unplayable, reviewed very terribly, like barely functioned as a game. And Lies of P is extremely functional and looks really good and plays really well. I just have for me is like when it comes to the horror genre and things that I like, I'm creeped out by dolls and puppets in general. So, but then also like drawn to it in a weird way. So the aesthetic of Lies of P is very appealing. All the enemies are like strange puppets and marionettes. Um, Pinocchio is the lead character. You have a customizable arm that you can switch out. You also get different weapons, and you can change out the handles and blades to do different customizations. That being said, it's pretty tough. It took me a while to learn it. Most of the regular enemies you can kill easily in a couple hits, but the sub bosses and bosses are, notably difficult. I made it past the first main boss. It just took a lot of blocking and being patient. And I didn't struggle with it too much once I kind of learned the rhythm of it. But I just played it for a little bit to see what it was like. And I actually think I'm going to try to invest some more time in this. There's a chance that I get to the second boss and can't beat it. And I'm like, nah, I'm done with this because I don't have the patience. But for now, I'm kind of interested in Lies of P. I want to see more of it. I also think the title is really bad.
The Lies of P. It's not the best title.
Are there like different weapons or classes or spells or anything? Or
there's different weapons. You can like God of War style.
Okay.
Yeah, like you can change out your hilt and blade. Yeah, you change out your hilt and blade, and some weapons are faster, some are slower. Like you can go for power and slow, or you can go for less power but super fast. And then when you kill enemies, you gain like essentially essence. I can't remember what the proper name of it is in Lies of P. Yeah, your souls. And then when you get to certain people, you can level up. So you can put those souls, whether it's into your health or your dexterity or your strength or whatever, to get better as you go. So that's kind of the grind.
It is. I don't know if you ever played Devil May Cry, Gary, but it's very much like that. Everyone's the same character. There are no classes, but you can differentiate your combat style, which is
the thing I liked about Devil May Cry was how like arcadey and fast it was. It was all about knockups and combos and juggling. And Devil May Cry had a really fun play loop. But the Souls-like games are a lot slower and sluggish and punishing. It seems like they're not as arcadey and bright and colorful.
If you play Bloodborne, which is made by the same folks that make the Souls games, but it's a PlayStation exclusive, in that one, it's known for being a little bit faster paced. Your characters are faster. That being said, the thing with Souls and Bloodborne and even Elden Ring, like in those, you create a character, right? Like you are playing as kind of a nameless, faceless character, but you mold it. And you can kind of choose different classes or play in different ways. With Lies of P, you play as Pinocchio. Like, you don't get to create a character or anything. You play as Pinocchio. That being said, you can level him up in different ways and do different builds. But, like, there's a little bit less of that RPG factor to it since you play as Pinocchio.
You're early on, too, but do you know if there's any, like, decision-making elements that... Which Pinocchio, by the end of the story, did you do a different quest depending on what you chose to pick Pinocchio, or do you just run the exact same adventure as every other Pinocchio?
I'm not far enough to know, but so far it seems pretty linear in that way. Like, I think you can probably explore, like you can go tackle a different areas in different orders as far as that goes, but you're probably doing the same things in those areas.
I haven't played, but I remember because this was, if you remember, this was one of my most anticipated games of the year. And they were showing that like your lies affect the world around you, and like you can actually cause the world to change depending on certain things. I don't know what they are. I don't know how much
I've interacted with that a little bit so far, just in the fact that in this world where puppets have come to life and are kind of terrorizing things, there are still rules that puppets abide by in this world. And one of those rules or laws is that puppets cannot lie. And playing as Pinocchio, it's clear that in this world, he is one of the puppets that can defy that rule and he can lie. So I've had to do things where like, you are going to enter a building and it asks you a question, basically, are you a human or a puppet? And if you answer honestly, you can't get in. Like, you have to lie in order to get in. Now, that being said, like, you have to choose that response to move forward, but there might be choices you make in the future where maybe there's some sort of outcome-based change, but I'm not far enough yet to say.
Yeah, I'm starting to think I need to, like, take a vacation to play games, because all the ones I wanted came out all at once. Lies of P, I haven't had a chance to sit down with yet, but I absolutely intend to play it. Armored Core, Fires of Rubicon, Totally want to play it. That's from the developers of Elden Ring, and so I'm all about that because I'm an old school Armored Core fan. And then Mortal Kombat 1, which I wasn't expecting. That looks really good. My brother's playing it. Apparently, Megan Fox voices one of the characters, and that's his new main. So, like, looks really cool.
Payday 3 comes
And then Payday
out
3, yeah.
Thursday the 21st. It comes out this week, and that'll be free on Game Pass.
This year has been at least towards the end of the year, has been the complete opposite of last year. Last year had Elden Ring, and like that was pretty much it. This year has a lot of really solid gaming, and I'm struggling to keep up.
I got Spider-Man 2 coming out in October.
Oh,
there's
God.
Super Mario Wonder. There's Mario RPG, the remake. Super Mario RPG. There's I haven't even played Baldur's Gate 3 yet, and that's going to come out on Xbox in the next couple months, and I'm going to play that. And yeah, there's no lack
I'll
of,
help
you know,
through it. I'll guide you.
I guess as a silver lining to less content from the Hollywood side, you know, when we're seeing the fallout of the strikes, when there might be a delay in some content, at least there's plenty on the games front to keep
That's what I was saying earlier, man. We've got our games already. So if you guys are going to go on strike, just go ahead and do it now. We've got good games. Just go ahead and go get your money.
We are sated. Go get your money.
Yeah, Jahan's got some catching up to do. You can take a couple of months off.
I do. That'd be funny if that's the reason they struck. They're like, oh, Jahan's got enough. You know, it's good. We were doing this for him. Yeah, video games.
Yeah, so that was the only game I had on my list. Otherwise, you know, I've been playing Starfield a lot, like Gary said. So which we've talked about for 2 weeks in a row. So I'm not going to take up too much more time.
Yeah, I don't have a lot
that.
more to say about it at this point. I love it, and I'm still playing the crap out of it.
Should I go ahead and move on to some movies really quick? I can kind of blast through these.
Blast through, Drew.
Yeah, let's do movies.
So the first one I watched, actually, Gary, you said you got rid of your Hulu subscription, but I watched this on Hulu. It's a Searchlight film, and it's called Theater Camp, and it is about a theater camp. It's like a mockumentary style movie about the people running and working at a summer camp for theater kids. So right up my alley as a former theater kid from high school. This is directed by Molly Gordon and Nick Lieberman, who Molly Gordon is an actress who she's actually in the most recent season of The Bear for those that have seen it, but she's in a bunch of other stuff like Good Boys, and she actually was even in the Winning Time show. But she stars in this and is one of the directors. It's written by her, Ben Platt, Noah Galvin, and Nick Lieberman. So like a lot of the people, 3 of those people star in the movie as well. Like Ben Platt, who's obviously Tony Award winning actor and well known for on the Broadway circuit, but was also in the Pitch Perfect movies and then some other shows and things. He's in this, and yeah. So anyway,
I'm gonna take a shot. Yeah, I know you haven't said anything about the movie yet. Does it have the same kind of feel or vibe as like Wet Hot American Summer or Heavyweights, that kind of summer comedy camp movie feel?
Yeah, definitely more in line with like a Heavyweights, except filmed in like The Office mockumentary style.
Okay.
So the plot is that
would watch a Heavyweights mockumentary.
The plot is that the woman, I believe her name's Joan, in the film, it's played by Amy Sedaris. She is the one that runs this theater camp, and she's fallen into a coma. So her son, who's played by Jimmy Tatro, if I'm saying that correctly, is kind of having to step into the business side of it. He is, Gary, you would absolutely know who this is if you don't know him by name. He's in...
I'm looking at his face and I already recognize him. He's been in a bunch of failed TV pilots.
Like American Vandal was the big Netflix series he was in that I think was about the spraying dicks on cars or something.
Was he the dick sprayer?
Yeah, he was the main character.
Okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
They thought was the dick sprayer. He's also
he's in a lot of stuff.
There was a show that came out last year with Topher Grace and some girl whose name I don't know, and this guy, and the 3 of them were siblings, and they were always meh at each other. It was a terrible show, but he was like the rich douchebag sibling.
Home Economics is the show.
Home Economics, there you go. Yeah, I know this guy. He's a that guy.
He is
Good
that
for him.
guy.
So he's in it, and he's trying to like run it, but he's like trying to be a social media influencer and like not a very good one. Ben Platt and Molly Gordon kind of play like the main acting teachers, and then there's this ensemble cast of kids that are like very reminiscent of the theater kids. I feel like, Gary, the stereotypes that you and I would have encountered when we were
Hmm.
in theater and school. And I thought this movie was okay. There were some funny parts to it, and definitely some bits where I feel like they hit the nail on the head. I also feel like there's another version of this movie with this exact same cast that's just like maybe the writing's a little bit better, where it's a little bit more successful. But it's 93 minutes long. It's pretty short, and anything like this I think is kind of fun. Oh, I totally uh Io Itabiri's in this too, who's also known from The Bear, and she's been popping up in everything now. She's Sydney in The Bear. She also just voiced April O'Neil in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. She's in another comedy called Bottoms right now. So like she's all over the place, and she's in this movie as well. But yeah, it's okay. I was hoping for a little bit more. It's streaming on Hulu now. I do think that there's a better version of this movie, but for what it is, it's kind of a fun experiment for the people that starred and wrote and created this. So yeah, that's Theater Camp. The other movies I watched are A Haunting in Venice, the new Kenneth Branagh, Hercule Poirot, Agatha Christie murder mystery movie. I don't know if y'all watched either of the previous two, Murder on the Orient Express or Death on the Nile,
Oh
where
no,
Kenneth
is this part of
Branagh
that
is.
same thing?
Yes, it is. So this
Ah.
is those are both higher profile Agatha Christie books and have had movies made on those books before that Kenneth Branagh has made new versions. This one's based on, I think it's called either Halloween Party or Halloween Night, a different Agatha Christie book that's lesser known, but it's a more kind of Haunting in Venice. It's a little bit more horror spin to the murder mystery. There's a bunch of people in it. All these movies have big ensemble casts. This one has, of course, Kenneth Branagh, but it's also got Tina Fey and Jamie Dornan and Michelle Yeoh and a few other people. And I actually thought this was probably the best one of those three so far. I'm always down for a good whodunit. I think these Kenneth Branagh, Agatha Christie movies have been so-so up to this point. And the last one, Death on the Nile, came out I think in 2021 after being pushed. It's supposed to come out and COVID delayed it. And then around the time it was supposed to come out, it's also when Armie Hammer is a lead of that movie. And
Ooh.
that's when he was going through that news cycle was happening. And so that movie just, was really a wrong place, wrong time as far as its release goes. And I think was buried a little bit even by the studio. The movie itself is meh, it's fine. But A Haunting in Venice is pretty fun. I actually recommend it. I think that it's the best of the three if you like these kind of whodunits.
Nice.
That one's in theaters now. Another one I watched is on Prime Video, and it's called A Million Miles Away. And it stars Michael Pena as Jose Hernandez, who's the first Mexican American astronaut to go to space. And it's all about like his history and how he dreamed of being, an astronaut and what he had to do to get there. The movie is too long. It's like 2 hours long, and I looked at the time code of the movie. He gets accepted to the astronaut program at 1 hour and 10 minutes into the movie. So there's just a lot of buildup in this, which it's all relevant because it's all about his character. But I love like NASA training stuff, and I like a good space movie anyways. This was okay. Michael Pena, I feel like, is usually a great supporting actor. He can be good comedic relief. I like him in general. It's not as often that you see him in the lead role of like a biopic kind of drama like this, and he did really well. Like I like him a lot. And the only thing is that he plays the adult version of this character when he's like young, fresh out of college to the point where he goes to space. And Michael Pena is clearly in his late 40s, and when he's playing somebody who's like supposed to be in his early 20s, it's a little bit sticks out a little bit. I thought it was a little bit distracting, or I couldn't tell what this time period was supposed to be. But I think this movie is fine. It's an MGM movie that ended up going to Prime Video, so it's streaming there, and it's fine. It's called A Million Miles Away.
My parents watched this the other night, and I just was busy. I almost watched it with them.
Did they like it? Do you know?
A million miles
I think they
away,
liked it.
Jahan?
Yeah, I was a million miles away.
Did you say that your mind was a million miles away while they were watching it?
I was playing Marvel Snap.
Oh, you were a million miles upstairs playing Snap. Yo, did Jenny tell you I got paired up randomly against her in Snap?
She did tell me. Yeah,
That's
it was
awesome. So crazy.
That's
yeah,
crazy.
I saw her username and started spamming the point. She started spamming the point, and I was like, "Oh, that is her." And then we both took screenshots and sent each other a message. It was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
Pretty crazy. Like, what are the odds?
Right? I've never been paired up randomly with a friend before. That was really funny.
Yeah.
Speaking of being paired up with friends, Old Boy, the Park Chan-wook Korean film, just had a remaster re-release in theaters, and I didn't get to see it in theaters, but they released this updated version on video on demand services, and I ended up purchasing this on Apple TV and decided to give it a watch. And Jahan, clearly from your reaction, you've seen Old Boy.
Oh boy, dude. Oh boy. Oh boy. Old Boy is not. So, Old Boy's a good movie. Old Boy might be a fantastic movie. Old Boy leaves a pit in your stomach at the end of it that will never go away. It will stay with you forever. It is harrowing.
Really, just gonna say it. This movie's fucked up.
This movie's truly fucking busted, dog.
It is nuts. It is
No
really
spoilers.
good. Like you said, it's not a movie you could go to people and be like, "Hey, watch Old Boy." You know, like
I would never tell someone to watch this movie.
That being said, it's great. And this updated version, apparently I was reading this, and I don't know the movie well enough to have been able to tell this, but apparently some of the subtitles in this updated version are a little bit better to the translation and help the plot make a little bit more sense at times, like in the small areas of things. But that being said, I mean, if you've seen Old Boy before, you know what to expect. It's still good. It's still pretty messed up.
There is an American version of this movie with Josh Brolin, right?
Josh Brolin, and directed by Spike Lee, and I believe it's kind of been disowned by Spike Lee. I don't think anybody really speaks about that movie positively.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it's good. And I would say watch the original Korean.
I do know
crazy.
that the American version keeps the same plot twist that's in this Korean version.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, in the mood to watch Old Boy, but boy, I don't know what kind of mood you have to be in to be like, this is what I actively want to watch today.
I don't want to make anyone misunderstand. I'm glad I watched it. I think it's a great movie.
Oh, it's a 5 out of 5. It's a 5 out of 5.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Just be ready. There's a twist.
I haven't seen Old Boy, but as I'm doing my research, it is apparently who we have to thank for the Marvel hallway fights. Old Boy had a one-shot hallway fight scene that was 17 takes over 3 days to get one perfect shot. So, thank you for that, Old Boy.
There's two. Other than the actual twist of the movie, I feel like there's two very iconic parts of it, which are one, the hallway fight that you're referring to, the hallway fight with the hammer, and the other thing is him, coming out of the suitcase, waking up in the suitcase on the grass, on the rooftop. I feel like those are kind of the iconic moments other than the plot twist. And if you have not seen Old Boy and you don't know the twist in it, don't read it. Don't read anything.
No. You gotta experience
just watch it.
You gotta experience
just watch it and let it happen to you. Let this movie happen to you.
I literally just browsed a synopsis, and I mean browsed. I didn't read it. I have no idea what the hell I just read. Literally, there's one word that sticks out, and it's prison. And that's it. That's all. That's basically what I got from the synopsis.
I mean, I can say for those who don't know, it's a man who is essentially abducted and wakes up in a hotel room, but he's being imprisoned in this hotel room, and he ends up being imprisoned in this one hotel room for 15 years. And then one day he is released from this prison, and the movie is all about him trying to figure out who and why he was imprisoned and what path that leads him on. So that's the general premise of
Man,
Old Boy.
it is something else. I'm a big fan. I've said it before. I've said it many times, probably to the point where it might be annoying. I love Korean movies. You should check it out. This is a good one for sure. If you like Korean movies, this is a good one.
Is this one, Jahan? I'm asking you. Is this one going to be bad for my brain? Is this going to be a bad time?
It's violent. I think that you could be okay.
Okay. More actiony, less horror-y.
It's not horror-y. It's
there's-
violent.
that's-
It's like
'Cause
John Wick.
I've got like Itchy the Killer in my head, where it's like you don't want to watch it.
No, it's not. It's not Human Centipede level grotesque. It is
Okay.
John Wick.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, there is some human trafficking elements. I don't know if that's going to be okay for you, but I think
Yeah, maybe,
overall,
right.
it's
Maybe.
probably okay for you to watch.
The other I
You
guess
watched
like
it recently, so
for full transparency, like the other Park Chan-wook like Vengeance trilogy movies, like Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and Lady Vengeance, deal a lot more with like the triggering things and involving children and things like that. There's less of that in Old Boy. It really sticks more to the mystery of it, and I don't think it really deals with like
it's
like
not messed
the
up
trafficking
in that way.
stuff.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
it's messed up in entirely other
Entirely
ways
other
that are.
All right. Well, I've got a movie coming off of Old Boy. This is not like Old Boy, I don't think.
No, this is a good palate cleanser. Please.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, everybody, you lick your mouth clean, get a little sip of water to boost your load.
All
All right, back to
Always
the
one
show.
of my friends to lick my mouth.
I said back to the show. I watched the new Pixar hit Elemental. This is the one that when Drew was talking about it, Jahan and I were like shrugging our shoulders, like, what movie are you even talking about? Because Disney did a really bad job advertising this. It didn't put butts in seats. Nobody cared about it. But
It
it's
actually
on-
it really disappointed its opening weekend at the box office, but it had some longevity to it. Like I think it ended up doing pretty well over time. It was one of those.
So I would say that totally makes sense because right off the bat, I think that Elemental is super rewatchable. I think you could watch it twice and get more out of it and have more fun and notice more little quirks in the background. Upon first seeing Elemental, I saw an angry little red guy and I saw a crying little blue guy, and I thought it was going to be like Inside Out because Inside Out has an angry little red guy and a crying little blue girl, and I just assumed, similar studio, similar movie. It's much more of like a teen romance. I guess they're in their 20s. It's just more of a young romance story. And I think we had Sean on the channel from Nerdtropolis, and he was talking about how it's an immigrant story, and it certainly is. It's an immigrant story and a young love story, and it is beautiful, and it is lovely, and the world is great, and the characters are great. And I really I understood their motivations and felt attached to the characters. I loved Elemental. It made me cry for like the last 20 minutes, like 2 or 3 different times. I'm about it. And it's pretty rare for Drew and I to disagree, or for me to like something and Drew to be so meh on it. But
Yeah.
I would say Elemental's a 7 or an 8. I think it's totally watchable. I think the world is super cool. I just really loved it. I loved everything they set up. I was feeling it. It almost reminded me of like Zootopia, where the whole time you're just like enamored with how cool the world is, and you can go back and watch it again and see all the cool things, and the characters are relatable. I totally felt that. So I'm gonna say Elemental is certified fresh. I think you should watch it. And I'm not even sure it's for kids. I'm not sure if like you and your kids should watch it. I'm not sure if they'll be interested. I'm not sure if they'll pay attention the whole time. So you should watch it. You should watch Elemental. You'll like it. It'll pull on some of your heartstrings.
We logged into Disney Plus the other day, and it was like the first banner that popped up was for this, and Gwen was like, "I want to watch that. What is that? I want to see it." And I put it on for her, and she actually was kind of into it, which surprised me because that's one of the things I said when I saw it in theaters. Was like, I'm glad I didn't take my daughter to this because I think she would have been bored. But she'll watch it in bursts at home, and she likes it. I think she likes the fire characters. Ember, I
Hmm.
think is the girl's name. Um,
The
yeah, I
parents are
mean,
cool, and then like for it being a love story, the main character, the main guy is really he cries a lot. He's very emotional and very open with his feelings, and so I like that kind of character. When I was watching the movie, I couldn't help but think about the Buzz Lightyears and Woodies that we grew up with. Everybody was a hero. And it's nice to kind of see this guy who's just emotional and honest and crying, and that's the one that she chooses to be with. And for me, those characters were she was social anxiety and he was depression. She got around people when they got busy. She would pop off. Her rage would get the better of her. She would shake and freak the hell out. And then for him, he was just an emotional wreck about almost anything you said would make him cry. And so for me, I was like, both of these characters are both parts of me. So I really felt a connection there. So I don't know, maybe it was just something different for me, but those characters, they really related and resonated with me.
and I think that's really cool. Like, I like that you saw that, and I think that's a fresh perspective. It's something I didn't think about when I saw it because, like, some of the things you're saying, like when I saw it, and a lot of those aspects about Wade's character, he's the main water character. When I was
Hmm.
watching it, I was like, I do not like this character. I found him to just be like, I guess I found some of those things to be annoying in the moment when I was watching it. When you say it in the way that you interpreted it, I find that to be really fascinating, and I think
Oh,
that's a way
and
better
trust
way
me, it
of
is
looking
annoying
at
in the
it.
moment whenever you're just an emotional wreck and you cry about everything. It is crap in the moment, and it does suck. But for me, those characters were really cool, visualizations of my mental health disorders to see anxiety and depression, and how they sort of got along and married together and what they did throughout the world. It was just, sort of accidentally wreaking havoc and self-sabotaging along the way. Yeah, that movie really hit me in a good spot.
Maybe I'll
And
like it.
and Pixar is still top tier for animation, right? Like their stuff looks beautiful by default now, and I agree it looked beautiful. My main thing too is I feel like they did some cool world building things with the elements in this movie, particularly water. Like I feel like the use of water is really well done in like the trains and how the water people live. But otherwise, I didn't feel like they did enough in this world to justify the shtick of trying to give human elements to
I
like this
decided
is
really early on not to pick that apart because you were
yeah
absolutely right. There's a lot of stuff that was just like oversights, things that were stupid, things that did matter, and then suddenly they didn't matter. Like they couldn't live in the wood houses because they might burn them down, but then the next scene they're sitting on a wood bench and it's fine. There was just little inconsistencies like that throughout the movie that like if I were a critic and picking it apart, it was pretty stupid and there were a lot of things that didn't really add up. But it wasn't supposed to be something that you pick apart and view critically. It's a beautiful kids movie and it's a young love story and an immigrant story. Jahan, I do think that you'll like it. And Drew, to your point, like where you said, like it seems like they just couldn't quite like the Earth people. They didn't matter at all. The tree people, the rock
hmm
people, they didn't matter at all. They never did anything. They didn't have a special mode of transportation. The cloud people were like bad. They like looked stupid.
yeah
They looked really stupid and they're like oversized, like they didn't really fit in the world that was designed around them. They looked misshapen. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that where they made some creative decisions that I thought were bad. Uh, but also there's the scene where they're like flying through the town and there's a lot of really cool creative decisions going on in the background. So when you take a step like that, Zootopia, they were able to keep it more close to the chest because it was based on real stuff. When you're playing with the elements, they took a few liberties. I liked that the cloud people traveled around in a zeppelin, and then when they all got out, it deflated and then fell to the next
yeah
floor, and then more
yeah
cloud
stuff like
people
that I
filled it
like
up.
too.
There were some really cool little notes like that, but like then she just drives a motorcycle. You know what I mean? Like, well, why didn't she have like a cool fire car? If that's what they're doing, like you should do that. But
She
it's
does
it's
like
just
cool glass blowing stuff that I liked because she's fire, so she can
exactly.
just
There's
do
some
that.
stuff
Like,
that's cool, and there's some stuff they totally miss opportunities. I don't know what it was, but to me, it seems like somebody came up with a really good like effects engine where the fire looked really good and the water looked really good. and everybody in the studio just like stared at each other and they're like, well, how do we make a movie with these effects? Like, now what do we do?
It's almost like they combine the two, right? Like it's like somebody had a good script for this like immigrant love story. Somebody had really cool animations for fire and water, and they said, you know what? Let's combine the two,
Let's
and we'll
try
make
to glue these together and see what
we'll
happens.
make the characters the elements, and that's it. So like it's a good story and a good use of those couple elements, but the rest of it isn't like as fully fleshed out. And I think that's what I felt
it's
was
not
lacking
a
in
9.
it.
It's not a 9 out of 10. It's not a 10 out of 10. Maybe it's an 8 on a good day. But I'll say Elemental. I was feeling like a 7 out of 10, but I do think it's rewatchable, and I did like it. I'm pretty high on it altogether. It's, to me, in my opinion, I think it's the best Pixar movie that has come out since Soul. I think it's just a little bit better than Onward, which I did like, but Soul I think is still the
Well, I
best of
liked
the
Onward
bunch
a lot.
from the past couple of years. I still Soul's up top, but that's it for me. That's my fresh pick. Elemental, check it out. It's on Disney Plus, and you probably have that.
I forgot that I loved Turning Red, and you really didn't like it, Gary. So
Didn't
that
mind.
was
I
that
also
was
like
where
Turning
we
Red. Yeah.
reversed roles there. John, I'll hand it over to you on a silver platter because you got a couple shows to
Yeah,
talk
I'll
about.
pick it up with the kid stuff, animation. I talked about a little bit before. Fiona and Cake is on HBO, or on Max rather. I finally got to watch like a good chunk of it. I watched like the first 5 or 6. And yeah, I say this is absolutely certified fresh. It is fun. When they announced this, I didn't know if it was going to be like a spin-off or if it was going to be canon to like the main continuity. It does seem to be canon. You get to see a lot of characters that I didn't expect to see coming back. You get to see what happened to some people. It feels a lot more like a continuation of Adventure Time than I expected it to, and I really enjoy that a lot. If you loved Adventure Time, you should watch this because you get to see more Adventure Time. It's not because the original they would do a couple episodes here and there where it was Fiona and Cake in Adventure Time, but that was the Ice King like telling this story of these characters he made up. It's not the same. This is very different. It is definitely more for adults too. Like I mentioned it before, this has aged a bit with its audience, not quite as much, but there's blood. They cut off a monster's head, and they're like you can see the meat in there, which they didn't used to do that kind of stuff. The way they talk is a little more grown up, but it's not. You could still watch this with your kids. It's not that bad. It's not Harley Quinn or anything, but it definitely aged a bit. I can't. If you like Adventure Time, you'll love this. I can say that for a fact. Like this is good stuff. Check it out. I'm very happy watching it. I sat on the couch and ate cereal and watched my Saturday morning cartoons the other day, and it was good stuff, man. Like definitely recommend. And then also finally I got to sit down with the newest season of Black Mirror. I know it came out a while ago, but I finally watched like the first 3, I think. They're really good. The new season is everything that Black Mirror ever was. It's very good stuff. The first one was batshit. It was nuts. It was there were parts of it where I was dying laughing. It was like it's a good one, and it's like a safer one. I know sometimes they can be traumatizing and like really fucked up. The first episode of season 3, you can watch it without calling your therapist. The second episode is very different from what Black Mirror typically is. It's very interesting, and it was good, and I liked it, but it was kind of fucked up. And the third one was weird. The third one was super weird. It has Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad in it. I forget his name. And he's an astronaut, and they're up in space. But at the same time that they're up in space, they have replicas on Earth that they can like go back to mentally. So they just go to space when they have to fix the spaceship. But then they get to live their lives normally on Earth, which it's a really interesting concept, really weird, as you expect from Black Mirror. But yeah, it's still on Netflix. Check it out. Two shows, 2 hits. Good stuff. I'm not breaking any new ground here. But
Man, and I was looking. One of the Fiona Cake is on Amazon Prime and HBO Max, which I got rid of my HBO subscription with Hulu, so I don't I don't have those anymore. And the other one's on Netflix, which I don't have right now. So I'm over on Sling. That's good. I like Sling for now. Maybe I'll cancel it eventually, but there's a bunch of cool stuff on Sling.
yeah, it's a bummer, man. Fiona Cake's solid. Definitely,
I'll
watch it.
see. Maybe I'll see if I can. Sling has the built-in DVR, so maybe I could see if there's reruns playing and get it to record the reruns, and
Oh
then
yeah,
at least
maybe
I can watch it somehow. That could be a thing.
find it somewhere. I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah.
those
I
were
almost
what?
I almost started Fiona and Cake up the other day, actually, for full transparency, Jahan. Like, I was just looking for something to watch. The only thing keeping me back from it is that I know you probably don't need to, but I instead will, if like, when I think about watching Fiona and Cake, I end up just going and watching a couple more episodes of Adventure Time because I've never watched that whole series. I'm like, I might as well go through and watch this because maybe it'll make me have greater appreciation.
It
That
definitely
being
will.
said, I like, I'm not like, I haven't binged Adventure Time, but like, I like seeing it in bits and pieces.
Adventure Time is fantastic. One of my favorite shows of all time. One of the best cartoons ever made, in my opinion. The first probably 3 seasons, like while they do have stuff that's important for the whole show, like they really start building onto this like big story later. There are seeds in the beginning, and it always seems like it was kind of leading to a certain place, but the story building, the storytelling and the writing really seems to take off at a certain point and become like it was always good, but it just becomes so much more later.
And then it gets worse for 2 seasons.
Maybe I don't know.
I like don't like the last. I don't like the last. What is it? 2 seasons. The island hopping Susan Strong stuff.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I do like that. I like that I
I
finally
go.
got to know. You finally get to learn stuff, and I like learning that stuff. It was cool.
I love Adventure Time, but then just suddenly for me, it slams the brakes at the end, and I did not like it. So that's why I haven't jumped on Fiona Cake, just because I'm scared. I'm just a scared little boy.
I think those Susan Strong episodes are like, I think there's like 2 seasons after those. I'm not sure though.
I think that's after they had gotten rid of Pendleton Ward. I felt like a lot of the heart and soul left the show. The characters were still there, and it was still writing, and things were still happening. But him being gone, I think I felt it. I don't know how I felt it, but something that it was missing for me. Anyways, I won't talk about how much I love Adventure Time and how much you love Adventure Time. We can talk about that on our own time.
I'll start an Adventure Time podcast, and we will go. You guys want to start one and
Oh, we could go
dissect each
episode by
episode?
episode.
Yeah.
And then we could do it again.
Next
because once you've
episode,
seen-
Slumber Party Panic.
But then once you've seen a bunch of episodes, then you can go back and reflect on some of the ones before, because sometimes the space-time continuum in Adventure Time isn't exactly straight.
That's true. I would
Sure.
actually do this. So, but yeah, hey, that's all we have to talk about this time.
I do really quick
really
before.
quick.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
God,
Just
don't
before we end
interrupt
it,
me.
I thought about this while you're talking, and I decided I wanted to put this in ink. I've put it in our document. I decided to add a fresh out the podcast prediction this week, based on our conversation we had earlier about Xbox. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. I think that based on, we talked a lot about Baldur's Gate 3. We talked about the comments that Phil Spencer and folks had made about Baldur's Gate 3 behind the scenes at Xbox. And here's what I just started to think about. Here's my prediction. Obviously, Baldur's Gate 3 is now available on PS5. It's not yet on Xbox because of some behind the scenes stuff that Xbox planned poorly, and now they are without that game on their system. And it's one of the most popular and successful games of the
Sounds
year.
like they thought it was going to be a pan, and they only wanted to offer $5 million for it, and it sounds like they didn't offer enough.
And now my prediction is that when Baldur's Gate 3 is optimized and ready for the Xbox Series X, and they have a release date set on Xbox, that Baldur's Gate 3 will come to Game Pass on day and date release on the Xbox consoles. as like a makeup for
You think so?
Xbox gamers who have been without this game from launch. I think that Microsoft is in a place now where they will pay whatever they need to pay to the studio to get Baldur's Gate 3 on Xbox Game Pass, at least for consoles. Maybe not on PC Game Pass as well, at least on console Game Pass. Baldur's Gate 3 will be on Game Pass day one when it comes to Xbox consoles. That's my prediction. I'm not super confident in it, but now just thinking of the behind the scenes chatter, these leaks kind of painting a bad picture on Microsoft and what their thoughts of this game as a make right, they will pay what they need to pay to put Baldur's Gate 3 on Game Pass day one. That's my prediction.
That'd be cool for you guys. That'd be really cool.
So that's it. That's all I had. I just wanted to throw that out there as I thought about it at the last second.
That's fair enough. Hey, I'll see you guys in Faerun. I am Johananon, the board game guru and game master extraordinaire.
It's me, Casualty CDG. If you like things that are fresh, then follow Fresh Out the Podcast, available where all podcasts are available. New episode every single week. This is episode 104, and they keep on coming. So tell people to enjoy Fresh Out the Podcast. If you're more of an improv comedy / stupid horror role-playing kind of guy, then Jahan and I are playing tabletop role-playing games every Thursday and Friday night at twitch.tv/Jahananon. We have an upcoming Avatar Airbender campaign. It'll be on Fridays. And we also have a fantasy campaign going on Thursdays. That's Thursdage, as we play Fantasy Age 2nd Edition. So join us every week. Thank you so much for being here.
And I am Drew Munhausen. You can find me at Drew Munhausen on most of the social medias. As Gary said, this has been episode 104 of Fresh Out the Podcast. And also just keep an eye on the social medias and what the plan will be for next week's episode. I will be in Austin for Fantastic Fest for my second year in a row going to that festival. So I'll be seeing the movies at our normal record time. So it might just be Jahan and Gary. Maybe they'll bring on a special guest. I don't know. We'll see. Just keep an eye out and we'll see you next time.
Stay fresh.